You can say yes to more things or be willing to say yes to other things. And I found that's really happened too for me as I have made sure that I have prioritized my health and my stress and my nervous system. It has opened up my enjoyment of saying yes to other opportunities, like in the community, having more capacity to serve or volunteer, or having more capacity to try some new work opportunities. But it took me making that a priority and really nourishing myself. I had to do that first before I was able to do these other things.
I'm Jessica Vallant. I'm a physical therapist, women's health expert, and Pilates teacher, and my goal is to help all women feel strong, safe, and secure in their bodies. In this podcast, I'll share expert advice, facts, amazing guests, stories, compassion, and hope to help you meet your body in all seasons of life.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Meet Your Body. I am so excited to talk to you today. We're talking about how I am prioritizing my schedule in the coming months. And if you are a regular listener, you know a few weeks ago, I released an episode about how I schedule my days. So a lot of people were asking how I schedule my workouts, how I work, and do the kids' activities. So I was just really like an hour by hour podcast about how I do my daily schedule. Well, that is changing because it is now summer. So the kids are done with school. And when that happens, my days change. So I've spent the last few days kind of reorganizing my thoughts a little bit about what that means for my schedule. And that includes my priorities. And so I wanted to talk today about how I actually prioritize things in my life in various seasons of life, because I know that it can really affect all of you out there. And so for me right now, that just means my schedule is actually changing because school is out. And so how am I going to prioritize the things that need to be done? But it could affect you in so many different seasons of life. Maybe you have some travel coming up. Maybe you're suddenly a caretaker for someone. Maybe it is just seasonal for you with kids in or out of school. Maybe you're on postpartum leave. Maybe you've had surgery, and so you need to take 3 months to really heal. There are so many things that happen to us that cause us to need to kind of reprioritize, just really focus on what we have going on in our life and how we're going to adjust our schedule for that. And I keep saying reprioritize, but in some ways that isn't exactly the right term, because it's really more about knowing what your priorities are in any given season of life, or even just in your life in general. And then knowing how you can keep your focus on those priorities while other things change, like your schedule, like kids being home, which is where I am at right now. So I'm just going to tell you how I do that, like how I can keep my focus on my values, on my priorities, on what's important to me, how I can keep my focus on those while also going the flow and knowing life changes periodically. So one thing I do want to say is I have a few podcasts you might want to go back and listen to as a foundation for this. So one of them is actually from New Year's 2024. I believe it was January 2024. And I talk about how I set up my goals for the new year. And the reason that's important is because I discuss how I decide how I want to feel in any given year. And then I make my goals around that. So when I am kind of doing this recalibration throughout the year, when a season of life changes, I always go back to that. Like, what is either my word of the year, or what are my main goals for the year? Or again, for me, a lot of times it's how do I want to feel this year? So go back and listen to that, because that is kind of vital, I would say, when it comes to knowing how to prioritize the things that are important to you, even when life changes. So that's one. And then other podcasts that are really helpful would be the ones I have on motivation and consistency. And I'll have all these links below, because that too, I don't want you to just say to yourself, oh my gosh, I just have to work out. I have to make it a priority. I have to make it a priority. But each time you realize it's not, like you have a hard time being consistent with that. There's such a deeper dive into that. And I want you to feel supported in knowing why it might be hard for you to stay consistent or find motivation. It's not just about tough love or feeling like, oh, I just have to work harder. There's a lot of reasons why you might feel like it's hard for you to, again, find motivation or stay consistent with those things. So those podcasts can be really helpful too. All right. So I wanted to kind of lay the foundation there because I do think it's important to have that foundation of, again, kind of knowing your calendar. What are your priorities? What's important to you? How can you stay consistent with those? Do that work first. Then this work that I'm going to talk about today becomes much easier. So let me dive into kind of how I'm doing it, but I'll give you some context around it. So like I said, the kids just finished school. So my husband and I both work full time. We both work for ourselves and we do work from home. So that's one context that actually is so helpful for both of us because we are not having to go to an office or having to answer to someone else. So we're not asking for time off. We're not asking for vacation time. So we set our own schedules. Again, that's really, really helpful. It also can cause a lot extra work sometimes of knowing, oh, I'm going to have to work till late at night if I can't work during the day. So there's definitely, lots of pieces to consider with that, but I consider it definitely, we're very lucky. We work from home so we can set our own schedules. We don't have help. We don't have childcare. We don't have family to help. We don't do camps during the summer. So we don't have any of that. So it really is kids and school, and they are home. And our kids are 7 and 12, if you want a little context around that too. So just the point that they can definitely be safe and independent, but also they're not home by themselves. Like we are home and we are playing together. And that's how we set up our summers. So that again is a choice. If the kids loved camps and wanted to do them all the time and it worked for our families and we were again like working in an office, we would do that. Our kids really like to be home and we like to have them home and we like to be together and we're lucky that we can do that. So we typically don't do camps. Occasionally we'll throw in 1 or 2 if they want to be with their friends. But we really kind of prioritize not having a schedule in the summer, trying to rest, again, play together, be together, go to the pool. And then we travel typically for one large chunk of the summer together when we go to Hawaii. And that's kind of what our summers look like. So again, I'm saying that because hopefully you can hear me that I'm saying, okay, I already kind of know what works for our family, right? I know what our priorities are as a family. And because I know that, it makes this next piece a little bit easier because I've done that other work already. All right. And then another thing with that is, yeah, I still work. Like I still do. I love my job. I need to keep doing my job. I need to keep working. So most of it is me figuring out how can I do that and still be present with the kids because that's what I want to do. Like I want both. I want to be able to work. I need to be able to work and I want to be present with the kids and I want to have this full summer. And so let me tell you kind of how that works for me. So when I set up my values, and this is work I've done before, so I know this about myself and this may change and most likely will change again as your life changes. But for me, let me tell you my values when it comes to what is important to me in my life and how I want to spend my time and how I want to be present, where I want to make an impact. Those are the kind of things I think of. So 1 and 2 in close succession is kids and family time. So it's the 4 of us, my husband, myself, and our 2 kids. So when I say that, I mean, what do they need from me as a parent? Like, how do I need to be most present for them? How can I say yes to them? And I don't mean just, oh, let's go to the water park. Like, honestly, that's a no sometimes. I don't like the water park. Okay. So that's going to be a no sometimes. That can be my husband. But when I say I want to be able to say yes to them, I mean, hey, Mom, I need to talk right now. Mom, I really have this question for you. Mom, what does this mean in the world? What's going on in the world? Hey, Mom, can you go on a walk with me right now? Hey, Mom, we're playing a game. Can you play with us? Like, those are the kind of things I want to be able to say yes to. And years ago, I had kind of an epiphany where I wasn't able to say yes to those because I had a job situation where I couldn't. I was either working really late or other people needed me. And it was kind of this moment of, oh, I can't say yes to everything. And I realized that right now, in this season of life with the kids, my yeses first and foremost go to them. And then family time. Like, we really love being together as a family and playing games and doing things as much as possible. So those are number one. Number two. And number three is my health. And that too is actually, interestingly enough, that's jumped up in my priorities from previous years. I had a really hard time and really I dove into chronic stress, which again, I have podcast episodes about that, kind of around 2021, 2020, 2021, that time. And so really for me, kind of a newish in the last 18 months or so priority is my health. And what I mean by that, because I've always focused on my health, but it's really more about that word nourishing that I keep saying. Like, what do I need to do to make sure I am keeping my bucket full so that I'm keeping my stress low? I'm not getting back to that fight or flight, that I'm regulating my nervous system, that I am prioritizing sleep. Again, just nourishing my body in all of those ways. That has to be a priority for me. And I realize that because I have spent enough time with it not being a priority, that I've gotten myself into some like not great health situations. So that is up there for me. And then movement is with that, but I have it as its own category because it's just so important to me. Like, it's essential of who I am and how I present myself in the world is moving my body. And it's a big part of my job, as you know. So movement can mean like going out for a walk. It can mean my regular workouts, lifting weights, filming, all of those things. So that's a big category. Then there's work. So that one's kind of obvious, but I have my membership community. I want to be present with them every day. I am filming videos, I'm editing, I'm on YouTube, I'm on social media, I'm answering emails, I am doing this podcast, I'm interviewing other people, I am a guest on other podcasts. All of that fits together into work. And then community is my final kind of those. I feel like there's about 6, but community meaning friends, neighbors, extended family, all of that. So community outside of work and our foursome family. So those are kind of I call them values, but it's also really where I want to put my time and my energy. There are other things in the world that are important, no doubt. I just know for the most part right now in my life, things are going to fit into those buckets, right? So if I'm asked to do something, I can decide if they fit into those buckets and then if I have the capacity for it. So that's how I think of things. Anything that comes up, does it fit into one of those buckets? And if it doesn't, that doesn't mean it's a no, but it just helps me. Like, I can't explain how much it helps me have some boundaries around my time and around my energy. And again, around what I can and need to say yes to versus what I might have to say no to. So it ends up being a guide for me. So having those allows me to walk into any season of life with a little more guidance, with a little more understanding. So walking into this summer season where things change, and I have quite a few under my belt now with the kids, knowing, okay, I still have to work and I have the kids at home. And so it has been a lot of, again, kind of understanding what those values are, but also really learning how to say no to things that might be really exciting, but might not fit into that. And then also making mistakes. I mean, I would say, I don't know how many years ago now, maybe 5 years ago or so, I remember having a summer where I didn't put some boundaries on work and I didn't set some of those things up, some systems possibly before the summer. And it ended up that I just ended up having a stressful time because I wanted to feel more free. I wanted to be able to say yes to the kids more. And instead I was like, how many camps can we do? And we need to do all these. And I still have to work, but I still want to be with them. Like, I just set myself up to not feel how I wanted to feel that summer. And so from experience and knowing that, I have made adjustments. And that's how things can kind of work. So what we do, my husband and I always sit down before the summer, and I would recommend doing this. You can't necessarily, let me back up. You can do this alone, all right? You absolutely can. But I'm guessing there's someone in your life who will be affected by your decisions. And that could be kids, it could be parents, it could be partners, it could be friends, it could be coworkers or your boss or nonprofits that you're involved with or your neighbors. It could be anyone. Many times there are people who are going to be affected, and you don't need to have these conversations with everyone. But if there's a direct person, like for me, it's my husband, we have a conversation, just a general one before the summer of like, are there any big things we need to do this summer? Are there house projects that need to be done? We live in Colorado. Winter comes and you're not doing much on a house outside, right? So do we need to have the house painted? Do we need, like, we just had to talk today. Okay. Do we need to look at the roof? Like those kind of real things. Are there anything in the summer that we need to do as a couple taking care of this home or taking care of other people? Are there any projects we need to get done? We talk about that. We talk about what our travel plans are. We talk about whether we need to see, travel to see family or help them with anything. So we talk through those things. So we look at that. This helps me know how to spend my time. Then I look at work. What is work going to look like this summer for me? And again, from experience, I have learned that I typically don't do really big launches in the summer of new products. So I'm not going to develop anything new. I'm going to put my focus on my membership and on my members in Unlimited. I'm always making new videos for them, and we always have monthly themes. So that keeps going. But that and then my YouTube videos every month tend to be my focus in the summer. So like I said, I don't do big brand launches. I don't do big brand changes. I don't do a big change of programs or website development and those kind of things. I also have to change my hours, and that's just realistic. If I want to spend more of that chunk of time with the kids during the day, that means I have to get up early and do my work in the morning. And sometimes I have to do it when they go to bed at night. That's not my preference, but it's what I do because those other things take priority over it. So I adjust those things. And that's worked really well. I just kind of have an understanding at this point that summer is going to be a lower work time for me. And that's not effort necessarily, because I still want to really do my best work for my members, for you all. It just means, again, I allow myself to get out of that space of always creating something new and kind of take summer as, I almost consider it a sabbatical a little bit. I still see one-on-one clients. I just tend to take less. And that really works out because then I can still give my all to those programs that really need it. And then also, like, what realistically are the next few months going to look like, right? All right, so things sound fun. Like, work opportunities come up, which they have actually. This summer is a little bit different because I have some really cool work opportunities that have come up. So I sit down. Do they fit into those buckets? Do they fit into my priority buckets? And if they do, and we can make it work as a family, then it's going to be a yes. And if they don't, and I can look at it and say, you know what, that takes too much away from my other value buckets. It's just not worth that trade-off right now. Then I've learned, even though it's really hard, I've learned how to say no. And again, I want you to think of this as any season of life for you. Are you in a really busy season with work where work needs your priority or needs your focus, and you're maybe helping another team member, or you're working for a promotion, or you're possibly working for or looking for a new job or starting your own side hustle or side business, and maybe your focus needs to be there. And then you get this invitation, from the neighborhood. Can you please be on our neighborhood board? We need you right now. You have to decide, and only you know. But that's where the question comes in. Okay, in this season of life that's temporary, does that fit into my bucket of priorities at the moment? And you are allowed to take a minute to make that decision. You don't owe anyone a quick yes. Like, if anyone is asking you something and they really want you involved, then they're willing to give you a few days to decide. And if they're not, if anyone says to you, no, I'm sorry, I need an answer right now, like, to me, that's a little bit of a red flag. And again, I'm not the best one to say this because I am a recovering people pleaser and I want to do all the things and I want to make all the difference. But truly, if someone is really forcing you to make a quick decision or guilt tripping you about it, that to me is a little bit of a red flag. So just keep those things in mind. If you're trying to decide, if maybe you don't necessarily know what your priorities are, if you have a lot of cool things to decide between, allow yourself a moment to take a breath and kind of see where you're at, right? I've also been in a place where we have been a caretaker for my mother-in-law when she had Alzheimer's. And there were things that just had to be no's during that season because so much of our time went to her. And by knowing your values, because what are mine? What did I say? Family. Kids and family are the top two. That was a big part of it. I mean, I wasn't going to walk away from that because I know deep down, no questions asked, my top priorities in the world are kids and family. And so it doesn't mean that I missed or that I didn't miss some of those opportunities that I had to say no to. I did. But I also could go to bed at the end of the day or end that year knowing that I made the choices absolutely that were best in my heart and soul and for me as a person in that time. And then I had to believe that those opportunities would come back around if they were meant to. And I know that's deeper than just how do I prioritize my day? But it's true. It is true. It's really easy to feel kind of that fear of missing out, right? Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to miss out on this. And I want this all to be my priority. And I know that feeling. But when you know, and that really is the biggest freedom that I found when I started to make decisions this way of, again, what are my priorities in life in general? And then for this year, so I do it for the year, and then for the season of life, right? Those three things, when I make those values and priorities, it makes decisions easier. It really does. It makes the yeses easier, and it actually really makes the nos easier also. So when I go down kind of that value list, like I told you, how does it look then in this season? And that's what I do. So for me, it's the summer, but you could use this in any time, in any season of life that you're entering that feels a little bit different or a little bit new, or just requires you to shift your time a little bit. Go back to that value list where those buckets, right? Maybe you want to call it that, your buckets of time and priorities, go back to those and go through each one. So for me, the summer, kids, number one, what do they want to do? What's necessary to do? What do we need to consider for any future goals they may have? And especially as they get older, that might be important for sports they really want to do, or activities, or traveling for school, or, applying for a job and those kind of things. So you do have to ask yourself that. What do they want to do? But what do they need to do? What's important for the future? How much time do they want with their friends? I always ask that to set up expectations. And again, that's a yes and no too. It's not always a yes, we can do whatever you want. It's okay. Yes, I want you to see your friends. And also I do need to work those days. So let's set up when we can do some play dates or when I can grab your kids and bring them here. Like all of that kind of has to be considered. So that's in that bucket. And then we have family time. So it goes along with that I just mentioned as well. So daily time, what's that look like? When are my big chunks that I can just play with them? When does my husband need to work? When do I need to work? We can work that out together and trade off. When do we travel? And those kind of things. For health and movement, the only thing that really changes for me is how I do my workouts. So during the school year, I'm able to get to the gym 3 times a week. And during the summer, I typically am not, because the gym is near their school. So I just don't go that direction. So I work out from home. So that's what changes for me. I want to be outside more. So I tend to do even more walks, and I tend to do a little bit of trail running in the summer. And then my workouts change because they're all at home versus using the equipment at the gym when I lift weights. So that just changes, but that's about it. And then when we travel, I adjust my workouts for travel. Otherwise, the time is the same. Work, I kind of mentioned how that changes. I change my hours a little bit, and I change my expectations of myself around new programs. And then community, we try to see people more. If we're going out with the kids, again, I'll be like, hey, come join us at the pool. Let's play at the pool. Like, I love nothing more than kids just running around, playing together. I can talk to the moms. We can see our friends. We can have barbecues. So we can talk about how to include that. Like, that's how I kind of bring that piece of it into it. And that's what the summer looks like. And then the fall will come and we adjust again. And that's the important thing to know is, I know I say all the time seasons of life, but it's true. We just do. And sometimes it's a long season. If you're a caretaker for somebody, it can feel really long. Sometimes when you're healing from a surgery, gosh, I know that can feel really long. Sometimes it also feels like it changes every day when you're healing. Like, oh, I have all this time and I feel great today. And then the next day you don't feel good. So sometimes you're really doing almost adjustments on a daily basis. But when you know those buckets of priorities, like I said, it kind of makes all of it a little bit easier. Not easy, but it just gives you some guidance, I find. And another thing to keep in mind is it's true that there's just no true or real balance. I think we like picture our time or the day as a pie, right? Like a pie chart or circle, and that each thing that's important would have equal amounts. So for me, it'd be kids, family time, my health, movement, community, and work, right? Like they each have their own equal amounts of space on that pie chart. I hope at this point you all know, and if you don't, I'm here to remind you that it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. So stop striving and pushing yourself to insist that it's always the same, because it isn't. Sometimes your kids or your partner or your caretaking, whoever you're taking care of, sometimes that's going to be 90% of the pie, and you have to divide up what's left for the rest of what you have that day. Sometimes work is going to be 90%. Sometimes your health, like I've been through those times when I've been diagnosed with things that came out of the blue, and it feels like that takes up 99% of your focus in the chart. And that's okay. The key is that you know your goal is to get back to just as much balance as you can do on a daily basis, giving yourself a lot of grace and patience and understanding that there will be times that it is completely out of whack. But just know that you can also, like the way I think of it is, again, I'm going to go back to the caretaking. So when we were taking care of my mother-in-law, we didn't leave the kids behind, right? We brought them with us. Like they were a part of that. And by us taking care of her, we were actually still really putting them at the top of the value too, so they could see what it was like to take care of a family member, to really love on someone. I think of that way with my work too. Okay, when my work needs more of my focus, that just means I'm also doing more for community. And I'm also showing my kids what it means to support our family. You can let all your kind of value and priority buckets overflow into one another in some ways, because it just ends up being you doing what you feel like is important in the world and for yourself. And then again, you'll change it as you need to. If you are just kind of following a schedule and nothing is really big is changing in your life, then you can just keep going with it. And when it feels like it's time for you to change maybe some of those values a little bit, readjust, look at them as needed. I'm sure mine will over time. I have found those, for me, those 6 things really tend to be the guideposts for me. And some might take over, right? When the kids go off to college, I'll have more time for some other things that might take a little more of the pie. So you'll adjust it as you need to. You can say yes to more things or be willing to say yes to other things. And I found that's really happened too for me as I have made sure that I have prioritized my health and my stress and my nervous system. It has opened up my enjoyment of saying yes to other opportunities, like in the community, having more capacity to serve or volunteer, or having more capacity to try some new work opportunities. But it took me making that a priority and really nourishing myself. I had to do that first before I was able to do these other things. And so just remember that, like, as you go through life and as things change and as you need to reprioritize, it might be that you want to look at your values as a whole, but probably you just need to look to start at a small, like granular level. Like, what does my schedule need to look like tomorrow? How can I adjust? If it's a big change of season, are there some other things in your life that you can adjust? Can you do grocery pickup instead of going in the grocery store? Do you need to adjust your time? Can you ask for help for kid pickups or drop-offs? Do you need to maybe make time for a 30-minute nap during the day if you need to prioritize sleep? All of those things are okay. You can ask for help. You can adjust. You can change on a daily basis. You're allowed to try things and discover that they don't work for you. All of that is okay, right? So just if you haven't yet, again, go back, think about those priority buckets. I find that once I know where everything fits in, it just makes things a little more smoother when it comes to me needing to schedule and knowing how to say yes and how to say no. So that is kind of how I'm looking at things for the summer. And again, knowing that when you go back to what I said at the beginning, I a lot of times think about how I want to feel. And then that helps me know how to make adjustments. So instead of just, oh, my goal is to have this done at the end of the summer, it's more, okay, what do I want to feel this summer? Do I want to feel adventurous? Do I want to feel rested? Do I want to feel present? Do I want to feel joyful? Like, you can kind of think of it that way as, okay, in this season, what do I want to feel? Do I need to feel focused? Do I need to feel on task, right? Or dedicated? What do you want or need to feel and embody during that season of life? Then decide what falls into that and what yeses and what nos you can say and make to help you achieve that feeling. All right, hopefully I gave you a lot to think about, but hopefully as well, maybe some clarity along the way, just knowing that each day is a new day. Choose what's right for you. If it works, keep doing it. And if it doesn't, you get to make another choice the next day. All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much for listening today. I would love it if you could take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. It means a lot to us and it helps our content get out to more women who need it. You can find more of my resources at my website, jessicavallant.com, or find me on YouTube at Jessica Vallant and Instagram at Jessica S. Vallant.